Welcome back, everybody, to Brown Bag Bets, powered by BetSperts, your daily dose of quick hit handicapping. I am not your host, Alex Christensen. As you can see, Noops is off today, so I am producer Dan filling in, and Andy not here because it's Tuesday, which means it's Tuesday with Matt Rooney. Matt, how are you doing?
So does this make me more the Andy and then you're the Alex because you did the intro and I'm
Well, no,
more?
it makes me more the Alex and you the Matt because it's Tuesday with Matt. So
That's true. Okay,
if it
I
were
just wanted to
another
make
day,
sure I
then
wasn't.
yes.
I just wanted to make sure I wasn't Andy here. That makes
Gotcha.
me
Yeah,
happy.
if it was Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, yes, you would unfortunately be Andy. But you're
Not
just
Andy.
Matt today. Yeah, I guess we can go ahead and launch into everything that we wanted to talk about. Neither of us huge NBA guys. However, the Eastern Conference Finals get underway tonight in Miami with the Celtics and the Heat. There you can see Boston is a slight underdog on the road, even though they are the favorites to win the series. And over under 204 is the total there. What thoughts do you have, if any, on this game, this series, as we look at two teams who played in the bubble Eastern Conference Finals 2 years ago?
I got to be honest with you. I have no idea what's going to happen in this series in like the best way. Like there's not really a scenario that if it played out, I would be totally shocked by. Like I think if the Heat maybe go out and swept Boston or 1-4-1, that would probably be pretty surprising. But also like the way they're playing and the way they've been playing the last few years with Jimmy Butler and then probably having the best coach in basketball with Spo, like nothing really surprises me there. But like I don't know, Boston just seems to be clicking on all cylinders. They seem to be the deeper team. I mean, you're getting Grant Williams or whoever that was with the 7 3-pointers in game 7. Like they're getting contributions from everywhere. They're so deep. And if Jason Tatum plays like the star, they should be the winners of that series. But like on paper, Miami shouldn't have been the 1 seed either. They shouldn't have probably beaten Philly, but they just kind of keep winning and keep playing good basketball. So I don't really know what's going to happen, but like this seems like Boston's series. It seems like Milwaukee was the tougher matchup and they got by that one.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because I think you look at 3 of the 4 teams in the conference finals right now, and one of the narratives that I've seen kind of developing is like maybe the era of the super team is over. And I think you look at these 2 teams in particular and the Mavericks as well as teams who have one superstar player and then a bunch of role players, and you never know which night who's going to step up. You mentioned Grant Williams for Boston. Al Horford had an insane game. You'd like to think that Jaylen Brown at some point is going to be a guy who can help carry the load next to Jason Tatum. But yeah, you have Jason Tatum, Jimmy Butler, and then a whole host of depth on both rosters. Bam Adebayo absolutely dominated the Celtics in the bubble 2 years ago, but Boston's in much better position to defend him in this series, particularly if the Time Lords knee is going to hold up. He is expected to play. There are no restrictions, but nobody knows how much he's going to play. And if Robert Williams' knee holds up, that really is going to be a boost for the Celtics. But like you said, yeah, it's really hard to figure what to expect in this series when both teams are going to be counting on unheralded guys to step up. It feels like to me, this kind of almost feels a little must-winish for Miami tonight, because if they lose game 1 at home, then they're going to be fighting an uphill battle. And I think the pressure is just on them so much the first couple of games in this series to try to hold serve, because if they don't, they're going to go to Boston trailing. So Zane in the chat says Boston in 6. And as much as I'm not a Celtics fan, that's kind of what my instinct was. I didn't love any of the series prices. I think it's like plus 250 or something like that. And, at that point, you're just kind of picking and choosing. So I stayed away from it. I think we're going to see some unders in this series, because if Jimmy Butler's not scoring for the Heat, it might be a problem. Yeah. Darren Summer in the chat says Adebayo and Hero assist props 2.5 over. They will eat. I'm assuming that means both of them individually at 2.5, not combined. But yeah. So I love that look too. Like guys are going to have to step up and make some shots, and those 2 guys are probably the second and third best options on this Heat team. So that's kind of where I'm sitting with this.
I'm with you. That was a good point. This first game, and especially, but both games 1 and 2 at home seem very, very important to the Heat, because I think if they go back to Boston tied 1-1 or God forbid down 0-2, like they're pretty dead. I think they really need to go out, and especially this one, grab game 1, set a little bit of a tone. Otherwise, I think it's kind of Boston series to lose.
Patrick's giving me shit in the chat. As much as I'm not a Celtics fan, Dan dressed in matching green and black hat and shirt.
Patrick, they're BetSperts colors.
That is BetSperts colors. I'm
now.
a company man, if nothing else. Not a Celtics fan, not a Boston sports fan. But if there's a good opportunity to bet it, I will. But moving on to things that you and I are more well-versed in, at least you are in this aspect, the NHL second round gets underway. You were on a heater this weekend, cashing bets left and right. If you follow Matt on BetSperts, which you should, what is your BetSperts?
Matt_Rooney.
Matt_Rooney. He posts his picks there. You can follow him on Twitter, mrooney23. So that way you can see what he is betting for hockey. And you have a couple of looks for tonight and some series bets. So I'm just going to throw these up and you just take them through.
Go for it. I can talk through it. I didn't put it up here because I thought it was a little bit ridiculous, but I yesterday put in an exact series parlay. I think it was Calgary 4-2, Colorado 4-2, Florida 4-2, and what's the other series that I'm missing? Why am I missing on the other one? Who's the other? Colorado, Calgary, Florida. Why am I blanking on the other
Colorado,
series?
Calgary,
Carolina 4-2. That's going to pay. It was like plus 70,000. So I'm really hoping that one hits for me, and then maybe I can take a year off. But we'll see. But no, I'll start with tonight's bets. We have the Flames, Panthers, and Lightning in the Battle of Florida. And I know it's like kind of funny to think that like one of the best rivalries in hockey right now is two teams in the state of Florida. And I'm not saying the most intense rivalry or like the most historic by any means, but in terms of just like actually good teams that are rivals playing against each other, the Lightning and the Panthers are as good of a rivalry as there is in hockey right now. They played last year in the playoffs. Tampa won in a good back and forth series in 6 games. I like tonight. I like Carter Verhaeghe to get to go over half a goal. I didn't really want to touch the game because I'm not really sure who's game ones are hard to predict in series and feeling out process. Granted, they're two teams that know each other well, but game ones are hard to predict and they're not usually that indicative of what's going to happen in the series. But Carter Verhaeghe was the best player on the ice for Florida. He was the best player on the ice in that entire series against Washington. And he's kind of the steady hand on a young team that hasn't really won. And it's hard to say. It's rough to say that about a guy that's only in his 3rd year in the league, but he won a cup with Tampa. He was on Florida last year, so he's a guy that's kind of been there before. He was their steady hand when there was some adversity, and he had 6 goals, 6 assists in that round 1 series. He was dominant, 12 points. So I'm going to take it plus 230, his over goals total, because I think he's going to be a little bit of a tone setter for them tonight. And the Avalanche minus 1.5. I've suckered into betting them the last 2 years big in their series prices, the ones they've lost, and I got bit for that. But I feel like this team is different. I feel like this team has kind of been there before. Nazem Kadri hasn't been suspended yet, so hopefully that doesn't happen for me. And I think the Blues are good. They impressed me, but I think both teams have had some time off here. I was a little bit worried about Colorado having a week off, but it's not like St. Louis has played in the last couple of days either. And I think at home in game 1, the Avalanche kind of come out on fire. I don't think they're a team that's going to struggle from being away for too long. I think it's just going to make them fresher and faster. And I think on the road, when Colorado is picking their matchups, I think Colorado is going to have the clear advantage there. Hence why it's only plus 110 to get a minus 1.5. So I'm going to take that. Series prices: Calgary plus 112 at minus 1.5. Dan, you watched some of the Calgary Dallas series. Jake Ottinger is the reason that went to 7. Jake Ottinger is the reason that went to 6. Jake Ottinger is probably the reason that one went to 5. He was that dominant. He was that good. And the fact that they were in game 7 being outshot like 60-20 shows you just how important he was to them. As good as Connor McDavid is, as good as he was in that first series against LA, they don't have Jake Ottinger. He's not walking through that door for Edmonton. They have a 40-year-old Mike Smith who has been kind of a disaster in the playoffs the last few years. The whole Oilers situation in goal has been a disaster the last few years. They don't really have the defense that Dallas had. And I think Connor McDavid I know Connor McDavid is good enough to steal a couple games here, but I just think the way Calgary played against Dallas, I think if they play that way against Edmonton, this is going to be not easy, but it's going to be a series win for Calgary, because I just don't think that Edmonton's going to be able to keep the puck out of the net the way that Dallas did. So plus 112, Battle of Alberta, give me Calgary. I'm also going to go Florida minus 1.5 at plus 140. Do some shopping here. I think I found this one on Caesars at plus 140, but like DraftKings only had it at plus 120. I think FanDuel is like plus 135. So make sure you do some looking around for these prices because you can definitely get some value on these series futures. But I like Florida to finally get over that Tampa Bay hump. Tampa was good in round one against Toronto, but like Toronto was kind of the better team throughout that series. Tampa won because Vasilevsky stood on his head at times, and they kind of just had that veteran will, and Toronto did Toronto things, which is choking in the playoffs and dropping 2 straight. Like they dominated game 6 and 7 and didn't win either of them. I think Florida finally kind of got over that first round hump, beating Washington, facing adversity against the playoff proven team in the Capitals. They came back, they won. I think this is their year. Like I've been on them all year. I think this is their year to make a deep run, and I think this is the year that they finally are able to get by Tampa, just because I think Tampa's got tired legs from 2 straight years of cup runs. I don't think Tampa's as good of a team as they've been in the past. Granted, they're still a very good team, and if they win the series, I won't be shocked. But at plus 140, I think Florida, now they kind of finally got over that first round hump, the ball's going to kind of roll for them, and they can get by their rivals here. And then going back to Carter Verhaeghe, leading scorer plus 1,200. I just thought the value was really good here after a 6-goal performance in the first series. You look at some of the bigger names, there's not a whole lot of value. I think going for one of these kind of second-tier guys, even though he put up first-tier player-type numbers, going up against his old team, being the kind of veteran in that Florida locker room with Claude Giroux, I like him at plus 1,200. I think those are pretty good odds for him to be the leading scorer in that series. A lot of bets.
Leading score in that series, not in this round or anything like that. It's just specific.
No, just that series.
Gotcha. Yeah,
I think those are only on FanDuel. That's the only place I've seen that prop, but keep an eye out. Maybe some more will open up later.
Yeah, go to our sponsor FanDuel and make that. Patrick, other Patrick, I don't want to call him other Patrick. I think it's Patrick P, if I'm not mistaken, says the Avs are set up nicely to advance to the Cup. Oilers Flames winner will beat the shit out of each other. I think they everything that I've kind of seen seems to indicate that they are significantly better than the Blues. And I the Battle of Alberta, you talk about good rivalries, like people may not know, at least in this country, I'd imagine there's going to be a lot of pride in that series. And I don't hate that look at all.
I think that's going to be, it's going to be a very physical series. It always is. And yeah, you like the rivalries, even the Canadian rivalries that get all the promotion here or Leafs Canadians, but because they play in, Western Canada, kind of in the middle of nowhere, people don't always realize how big of a rivalry, how much those two teams and fan bases hate each other. So that one's going to be physical. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I think that's a good point. Whoever the Avs are very likely to get by the Blues. I won't never say never, because the Blues have a cup winning goalie and a cup winning team in net right now, and that they could get by for sure. But if the Avs get by, those two teams are going to beat each other up. And I also just think the Avs are better than the Flames and especially the Oilers.
Yeah, I have some Flames to win the West at not maybe plus 115 or something like that. Not crazy odds, but yeah, I mean, it just seems like they are pretty head and shoulders above everyone else. And after just taking care of it, if they just keep taking care of business each round, the stigma with them not being able to kind of win, kind of coming up short in the playoffs, I think is going to just keep eroding as we move forward. Speaking of moving forward, we're going to go across the pond for some soccer, because it wouldn't be a show with me here if I wasn't going to give you soccer. And I'm not going to just give you some Premier League. We're going to go to the English Championship for our first bet there. The English promotion playoff going on right now. If you're unfamiliar, the English Championship is the second division. It's like a 46-game rock fight with dreams of making it to the Premier League the next year. The top 2 teams automatically get promoted. That was Fulham and Bournemouth, who you're probably familiar with. The teams 3 through 7 go to a playoff where it is a 2-leg semifinal, home and away on aggregate. And then the final is at Wembley Stadium, a one-off, the richest game in football, one of my favorite sporting events of the year, just because of how nervy it is. Huddersfield Town advanced with a late winner against Luton Town yesterday. And today you have Nottingham Forest hosting Sheffield United. Nottingham, they won the first leg on the road 2-1. So I like them to win at plus 135. Now, obviously, this is in regulation because it's in 90 minutes. This could end up going to extra time, penalty kicks, all of that. And they get through with a draw, and I understand that, but I don't think you want to leave anything to chance in a situation where you're at home playing for a draw. If the situation had been flipped and Nottingham if this had won at home and we're going on the road, maybe they'd play a little bit more defensively, but they have 7 straight wins at home. They have 10, they're unbeaten in their last 10 games at home. They only lost twice at home in their last 18 matches, one of which was to Huddersfield and the other was to Fulham, who was an absolute wagon this year. Fulham scored over 100 goals, and they had a plus 28 goal differential over Bournemouth, who was second. So losing to them is nothing to be ashamed of. And then my other one, a big Premier League game today. Liverpool 4 points back of Manchester City in the Premier League title race. The final day of the season is on Sunday, so Liverpool does have the game in hand today on the road at Southampton, but they're, like I said, 4 points back of City. So if they draw today, they could still conceivably win the league, but would have to make up a pretty big goal differential edge. And if they lose, Manchester City is your champion at the Premier League. This is an interesting game because Liverpool, they played a 120-minute penalty kick, just thriller. Even though it was 0-0, it was a great game against Chelsea on Sunday. A lot of emotion went into that in the FA Cup final. Mo Salah picked up an injury. Virgil van Dijk picked up an injury. Nothing serious, but they're going to sit them out today because obviously Liverpool, they have dreams of winning the Champions League as well, but it's Liverpool. There's going to be some squad rotation in this game. They might be a little bit, there might be some heavy legs for some of the guys who are playing. They're playing at Southampton, a team who's lost 7 of 10. Basically, Southampton secured their place in the Premier League next year. They knew they had no chance of making it to even like the Europa League or the Conference League. So they just pieced out and they've been kind of in vacation mode. So they've lost 7 of 10. However, they're a weird team in that they've played pretty well at times against the good teams this year. Their only win in their last 10 was against Arsenal. Jokes aside, I mean, 5th place in the league. They drew Manchester City both times. They got 4 points against Tottenham. So their coach, Ralph Hasenhüttl, said that this is their Champions League final. I don't know if that's going to really matter all that much. Liverpool has got to win this game. And I think just because they're missing their leader on defense, they might give up 1. But on FanDuel, you can get Liverpool to win either 2-1, 3-1, or 4-1. It's not a parlay or anything like that. It's literally just one bet at plus 260. They might end up just shutting Southampton out. Southampton is kind of prone at times to getting the shit kicked out of them. They lost 6-0 to Chelsea earlier this year. They also had a really bad 9-0 loss last year at one point. So like when things go bad for them, it goes really bad. But I think some heavy legs for Liverpool gives them at least a chance to score 1. But I would expect Liverpool to take this game pretty handily. Maybe 2-1 could happen if it's just kind of a little bit cagey, but 3-1, 4-1, it gives you a little bit built in there at plus 260. And yes, Patrick McCann brings up the point. Nottingham, one of the most historic clubs in Europe or in England, they were a dominant team in the late 70s, early 80s. Their rivalry with Liverpool was magnificent, and then they kind of fell off the earth. Haven't been in the Premier League since 1999, so a win today, or at least a draw, and they are 1 win away from returning to the Premier League. But let's head back over to this side of
Did you say the manager's name is Ralph Hasenhüttl?
Hasenhüttl. Yeah, he's German.
That's an awesome name.
Yeah.
That's just an awesome name.
Ralph Hasenhüttl.
No, nothing to contribute in terms of bets, just asking about the name.
Yeah. He's done a good job there. They're just kind of a mid-tier, middling club that hasn't really even been threatened with relegation lately, and they're just kind of there sometimes. But we have a full slate of baseball tonight. You have a couple of bets. It wouldn't be a Matt Tuesday without a homer pick. And your squad, the White Sox, they are throwing the keys to Little C's tonight. And I think you like one of his looks.
I do. So I got it at plus 500 up here for his 10-plus strikeout number. It has already been bet down to like plus 350 on FanDuel. So if you like it, get a look at it. But Dylan Cease has been a strikeout machine all year. He had his first bad start of the year. Was early or late last week. I think it was Thursday against the Yankees. He went 4 innings, allowed 6 runs, and still struck out 11 batters. So that was 11 of his 12 outs were strikeouts. He's a strikeout machine. He's got insanely good stuff. The Royals are a very bad lineup. I think Cease has 11 strikeouts in 2 of his last 3 starts. Earlier in the year, had 9 strikeouts against the Royals. Really, the only thing I worry about is his issue has always been mental, and kind of how he deals with adversity and bouncing back from walks and bad starts. If he's got the mental side of it today, I think he's going to absolutely mow through the Royals lineup in terms of strikeouts. 10 plus Ks at plus 500. I think 9 plus is now like plus 210. I took both of them myself. I really like him to rack up the strikeouts, especially in a day game here where lineups tend to be a little bit more lackadaisical, slow starting. If Dylan Cease can bounce back from the mental whatever issues that he always has after the bad start against the Yankees, I think he'll be just fine. I think he strikes out a ton of hitters. And then the Marlins, minus 1.5. This was just a look at the pitching matchup. They have Cody Petit going on the mound today. He's more of an opener, but his last start he was stretched to 4 innings against Arizona, so I would expect them to try and get a little bit more out of him today, similar to that 4-ish, 3-ish kind of innings. He's been really good all year. His ERA is right around half a run through like 16, 17 innings so far this year. Their offense, the Marlins, has also been pretty good as of late. They've got 8+ runs in 3 of their last 5. The Nationals, on the other hand, have just been really bad. They're 12-25 on the year. They've scored 2 or fewer in 4 of their last 5. Jonah Don on the mound for them today has been absolutely terrible. He's got an ERA over 7. On the road, his ERA is 8.5. So I know the numbers say don't take home teams minus 1.5, but in this scenario at plus 128, the first half line for the Marlins was like minus 150, so no value there. At plus 128 with the pitching matchup and how these teams are hitting, I'm gonna roll the dice with the Marlins there at the plus 128.
Sorry, Patrick McCann says Steve Cohen versus Steven Matt's grudge game in Queens today.
Give me Cohen.
All right. Well, I mean that seems to be a pretty good bet. And so it would seem as if you think that Dylan is going to tell the Royals lineup to cease and desist as well.
Yeah. So those the two jokes you had on there.
Bad jokes I was going to make
my past job, my past work life was a graphics guy for NBC Sports Chicago. So I was the one putting up the graphics on White Sox post game, pregame a lot. I used the cease and desist or ceasing the ceasing the day. Like Dylan Cease has a great name for puns. Let's just say that.
It's a very funny name.
Used all of those, every one in the book.
The cease and desist one I wish was an original, but Spencer Strider, who's a pitcher for the Braves, has a magnificent mustache and claims that he was the one who invented it and that he was going to send Dylan Cease a cease and desist letter, which is where I got it from.
Dylan Cease does have an epic mustache.
He does. He's a good pitcher too. All right. So the last thing I wanted to get into today is the French Open is starting next week. And if you haven't been following women's tennis at all, we have to do some women's tennis too, because Noops isn't here and someone's got to do women's tennis.
Do you want me to take it like I did last time when he backed out of the stream and just read his picks word for word on the graphic?
Can you pronounce the name?
Iga Swiatek.
Iga Swiatek. Close enough.
Okay, I was close enough.
Andy called her Iga on the pod.
I probably heard it from Andy, so whenever I do anything wrong on this stream, just assume it's Andy's fault.
That's Andy's fault. I love it. So Iga Swiatek has been an absolute truck in women's tennis. She's won 27 consecutive matches, and I think she's only lost like 1 set in that period of time. She's like the dominant clay court player in the world. And
Isn't she like to win the French too? I'm not even a tennis guy.
FanDuel, I think it was FanDuel. I think FanDuel finally put up the odds. She's plus 105 there, but she's pretty much even money everywhere else.
Okay.
And yeah, so I tweeted at Noops and I tweeted at Drew Whale-Capper the other night, and I was like, what's the best way to bet Iga and the French Open? And Drew said, anyway, which is helpful. And Noops said, parlay her with all of your bets this week. So me being the gigantic donkey that I am, I went ahead and I did that. And so Drew said last night on the deep dive that he would make Iga Swiatek minus 400 against the next best player in the field at the French Open. So there's no such thing as a complete free roll in sports, but this one feels like at least the most dominant situation that you're going to get, like Nadal in his heyday at the French Open. So I threw together some parlays. I'm just a Hideki Matsuyama fan. I think that, I've read that this course sets up well for him. Southern Hills, like the way that they've redone the course kind of sets up a little Augusta-ish.
Yeah.
They've redone the green complexes so that instead of everything funneling towards the hole, everything kind of funnels away from it. So this is, I mean, it's a major, so you would think ball striking is going to be at a premium. He's one of the great ball strikers in the world. And with Hideki, it's always about putting. And I know TPC Craig Ranch was a joke of a course, but he putt well there, which hopefully just means that it's going to carry over. He's going to have some confidence with the flat stick there. But play it with anything, any outright that you're going to take, do it. Like if you think Scotty Scheffler, who loves this course, won the Big 12 championship here in 2015 or something like that. Like, guy's been the best golfer in the world all year. He's plus 1,100, plus 1,200 most places. You can get like, that would basically double the parlay odds there. If you like Rory, if you like Smith, whoever you like, you can throw it out there. I just like Hideki and I like the longer odds. So I played that one at plus 5,700. And then I went into two that are more in my bag here. A French Open, a Formula One championship, not race, the Formula One Drivers Championship, and then a couple of college football plays. Max Verstappen is, even though he's in second place right now in the Drivers Championship, when he's been on the track this year, he's won every race. He's had 2 DNFs this year, but as long as his car holds up, he's going to win most of the races. And Charles Leclerc is having a great year, but I think the Red Bull car is a little bit better right now, and I trust that team more than I trust Ferrari. Ferrari is kind of like the New York Yankees of F1, the historic brand of the sport, but it's been a while since they've been the dominant force. Red Bull's got a little bit more experience in this. Obviously, Verstappen won the title last year, so I would give him the edge over Leclerc there, and there's less variance to me there than one race at a time. And then college football, Alabama's the favorite. They're going to be the best team in the country. Their defense is going to be absolutely insane this year. Bryce Young is back. They're going to be a little bit more balanced on offense than they were last year. They're going to have to work in some new guys at receiver, but it's Alabama. It'll be fine. So you can get that parlay at plus 900, or I throw Ohio State in there at a little bit longer odds, because I think that Ohio State is the only team that I think that might be able to beat Alabama in the national championship. Georgia's going to be good again, but Georgia's lost so many guys that this is going to probably be a retooling year. Wouldn't expect them to beat Alabama in the SEC championship game. And the Clemson's defense might be not quite as good as Georgia's was this past year, but Clemson's going to have an awesome defense. But I don't trust DJ Uiagalelei to make the jump from a guy who was pretty mediocre to bad last year to a guy who's going to help them win and compete for a national championship. So for me, it's Ohio State. The offense is going to be great. Yes, they lost the 10th, a team that lost the 10th and 11th pick in the draft at wide receiver still has some pretty good players. Jackson Smith and Jigba is awesome. Marvin Harrison Jr. is awesome. Travion Henderson had an awesome year. And saying the word awesome a lot, I need to stop that. And okay. I think maybe the biggest coaching hire in all of college football this offseason was Ohio State poaching Jim Knowles to be the defensive coordinator from Oklahoma State. That Oklahoma State defense was nasty. And for Ohio State, the offense was good all year. They just got smacked, or their defense got smacked around against Oregon. They got smacked around against Michigan, and they get Michigan at home this year. With all due respect to Matt's Fighting Irish, tough to expect Notre Dame to go into Columbus and win in week 1.
It's going to be tough for Ohio State to run the table after losing that week 1 matchup.
There you go. They got Wisconsin and Iowa at home this year. Their toughest road games are Michigan State, which, I mean, even though Michigan State's probably going to take a step back, like
they always give Ohio State problems for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's for whatever reason.
And then except last year, but
yeah. And Penn State's a tough place to win. So I just think that Ohio State, if their defense makes any kind of leap forward, I think they're going to be in the playoff. And I think that they have the firepower to contend with Alabama. I think Alabama's going to win the national title, but I just didn't want one parlay on Alabama. I went with the only other team that I really felt confident in having the chance to win the national championship, and I accidentally removed it from the room when I didn't mean to do that. So there you go.
My internet wasn't messing up.
Patrick McCann says, got to throw Terps men's lacrosse in there. I looked for that in a few places, but none of the places where I bet allowed me to do that. I really wanted to, because apparently Maryland's men's lacrosse team is also quite the wagon this year.
Dan, that parlay just made me want college football season to get here that much more.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Like doing some of the research for my Heisman vignettes that I've been doing, and like thinking about this parlay really has my juices flowing for it. I'm going to start doing some prep work on college football for the fall, and NFL is going to be here soon enough. Like Andy and Drew talked some NFL last night at the end of the deep dive, and we're getting close, man.
I love how early we get into those training, going through the two teams a show. Like it just. it's football content starting in July, and it's just awesome because that's what I need. That's what I need to look forward to, and it's so awesome to have it when they start doing that, and it's just really easy for the deep dive. We're talking about the Chargers and the Chiefs today. Next show is the Raiders and the Broncos. So I love it so much.
100%. Well, we want to thank our sponsors, FanDuel. We want to thank Profit Exchange. We want to thank PropSwap. All of our sponsors. Go and check them out. Follow Matt on Twitter, mrooney23. I'm producer Dan.
If you're looking to bet the PGA, PropSwap has some pretty good tickets on there. I've gotten a couple. I bought a couple. I think I bought a Scotty Scheffler about a month ago. I think I bought a Harold Varner that had some pretty good odds. Like there's some decent PGA looks over there. So if you're looking to get a PGA ticket, don't like any of the prices on FanDuel or DraftKings or Caesars, wherever, I would head over to PropSwap, and that's a nice place to try and find some value on those.
There you go. And I think our FanDuel BetSports Golf offer is still live, where if you go and sign up, sign up and place a bet at FanDuel, we'll get a receipt from it, and you'll get a free subscription to BetSports Golf, which we're selling for $99.99 right now. So go place a $100 bet on the PGA Championship. It's a risk-free bet with FanDuel. So even if it loses, you get $100 in site credit and a subscription to BetSports Golf, where you can then start make you a better golf bettor if you haven't bet golf before.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the success those guys are having, 2 weeks ago they gave out Homa at 50-1. That hit, and then even bigger, Ron gave out Munoz, first-round leader, at 80-1 last week. So back-to-back weeks, BetSports Golf has cashed a 50-1 and an 80-1 winner. Maybe doesn't keep up hitting those all the time, but those guys are having a very good year, and they're giving out some really good looks.
And Noonan's ROI has been awesome this year, and Andy is the king of matchups. So BetSports Golf is great. And in fact, there's still a show probably going on over there or close to wrapping up with Andy, Noonan, and Jeff Feinberg. So go check that out.
DFS one later today then too, right?
The DFS show is also later this afternoon. Ryan Noonan interviewed Paige Sporanic yesterday. It was a really fun 30-minute interview worth checking out. So go check everything out over on our YouTube page. Follow Matt on Twitter, mrooney23. I'm producer Dan, really Dan Weiner on Twitter. Andy and Noops will be back tomorrow with more PGA, more NBA, and who knows what else they will have for you. They will see you tomorrow.